Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our last MHC at Home series for the month of April, entitled Grow With Us. I'm your host, Jackie Davis, and I'm happy to be joined by today's presenter, Lori Mossberg. She is MHC's Grow Program Coordinator. And before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items with everyone. And I do apologize, my slide got stuck for a moment. There we go. All right, before we get started, if you do need to utilize closed captioning, you can click on the CC icon on your screen. This, along with all of the workshops for the MHC at Home series, are being recorded. If you would like to watch a recording for this or the other workshops, just go to our website at www.mhcon.org/alonetogether, where you'll also find other resources from our staff. There will be time for Q&A at the end of the workshop. All microphones will be muted during the presentation with the exception of myself and Lori. If you'd like to ask a question, simply click the Q&A icon on your screen and you can type your question into that box at any time during the workshop. Again, all questions will be addressed at the end of the workshop, or if for any reason we run out of time, we will email you a response. And now it is my pleasure to introduce today's presenter, Lori. Lori grew up at her family farm in Cheshire, Connecticut, right up the street from me. While she does not identify as an expert, I think she is, but she says that she is a gardener through her experiences. She enjoys learning about flowers and vegetables, about planting, and discovering how to make a garden flourish with health and abundance. Lori has her BS in health education and a teaching degree, and she is currently MHC's Grow Program Coordinator. And now it is my pleasure to welcome Lori.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon to this Wednesday's webinar series with MHC's Grow Program. I'm Lori Mossberg, the Program Coordinator for Grow, and our associate is Maddie Roy, who is our part-time growth specialist with strengths in hydroponics and cooking healthy meals. The Grow program began as a vision in 2017 and has since developed into a year-round program for any participants who would like to be part of our activities based on nature and growing plants and sharing the results. This year, we had participants engage in fall and winter activity programs, which included making holiday pine and cedar swags, suet for birds, building bird feeders, painting vases, flower arranging, planting spring bulbs, seeding in flowers and herbs. And at this time, the Grow program includes services at 5 different locations within our MHC community. And they are Bridgeport, Danbury, Stamford, Torrington, and Waterbury. Currently, the Grow program has a greenhouse in Bridgeport, a hydroponic growing room in Danbury, a greenhouse and large vegetable garden in Torrington, and plans to install another greenhouse in Stamford. We also have a healthy meals program in which we have at one of our homes in Waterbury weekly. We create a healthy meal as well as conduct a nature-based activity while the food is being prepared and cooked. Because of the coronavirus, Maddie and I cannot conduct grow groups, but we've been sending supplies for activities to our different homes so that participants can still engage in a grow activity. Maddie has been checking in on the hydroponic room on a weekly basis. And there, we are presently growing lettuces and cucumbers in the hydroponic room to eventually share when they're ready to pick. Fortunately, we have a wonderful participant who is helping us care for the lettuces and the cucumbers in Danbury during the week. We're also taking turns and checking in on our Bridgeport greenhouse, in which we've been growing in large pots potato plants, which later in the season will produce a lot of potatoes. But I have to say that both of us really miss working with everyone, and we hope to see and work with everyone on activities with you soon. Since we've been quarantined, I've been working in my basement, starting seeds in recyclable containers and then bringing them up in the greenhouse to transplant. These vegetable and flower plants can then become larger, and hopefully they can be sent to our greenhouses and planted in our Torrington greenhouse and garden for the summer. I'm so proud and honored to be part of the Mental Health Connecticut community. I love being part of MHC in that we can encourage gardening and horticultural therapy. I have found the perfect place to be able to teach and share the gifts of nature and growing. For helping me present this webinar, I could not be without those wonderful MH staff members that have supported me, as well as each and every one of us are in these webinars, and in so many ways that are too numerous to mention. And they are Ruth Lutz, our Community Engagement Officer, Susie Craig, our Chief Strategy Officer, Jackie Davis, MHC's Marketing and Development Coordinator. Thank you so much, Jackie, for all your help. Remy Kayak, MHC's Chief Experience Officer, who is also my wonderful supervisor. Thank you so much for all your support and your encouragement with the GROW program. And I especially want to thank Luis Perez, CEO of Mental Health Connecticut, for your strength, insight, determination, and compassion in always doing what is right and just for the communities that we serve. You are our inspiration in all that we accomplish. Gardening has always been a wonderful way to spend time. You get to work outside in nature or in a place such as this, a greenhouse that's warm, it smells great, and it's filled with life. It is reflective, it is quiet. You get to create life that is so beautiful and fulfilling. You get to share it with other people when you're working in a garden. And just the thoughts of gardens and gardening seems to have a very calming effect. You're getting exercise while you garden. When you're planting, when you're weeding, when you're hoeing, you are releasing endorphins in the brain to make you feel good. And you're reducing those cortisol levels that produce that fight or flight feeling in the body that produce anxiety and stress. So you get to feel good. You create something that you and others can benefit from. The aroma of spring and summer flowers, the taste of fresh tomatoes and other vegetables, the feeling of the warmth of the sun and the plants in the soil in your hand, as well as the remarkable sight of a garden that is growing before you. You can be physical in the garden. You can be safe in the garden. You can meditate in the garden. You can draw and paint in the garden. You can write in the garden, or you could just be. One of the better therapies that I can think of. For today, we're going to be learning how to seed into different recyclable containers. And I've accumulated a bunch of them over the last few months, and I want to give a shout out to Victoria for helping me collect a lot of these containers, in which are the containers that I'm going to show you how to use. And I probably start in the fall and winter. I start collecting, well, I collect all year round, and then I just put them down in my basement. I fortunately have a bandsaw that I use that I just skim off the top of this, and then you have approximately 4 to 5 inches to work with. But I'm going to show you how to do it at home when you don't have a saw down in your basement. So you're going to use either a scissors, or you can use a knife. This is a big bread knife that I have. You can also use a little serrated knife. What you're going to do is you're going to put a little slice in the corner here, and then you're just going to cut all the way around the edge. I'm not going to do it now because it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm going to show you what it's going to look like. All right, so the top is off, and if you notice, this is where the spout is. We're going to keep that at the top, because if we put it down here or down here, in case you didn't forget to keep the caps, because sometimes I forget, the cap stays on. Okay, so you're thinking, all right, I have my container. But no, there's one more thing that you have to do. You have to poke holes in the bottom, because you absolutely need drainage. You don't want any water settling in the bottom, because it'll rot the roots. Say that 5 times fast, rot the roots. All right, so what I have, which you will not, but I do because it was made for me, is this little, and it has nails in the bottom. I don't know if you could see that. But instead of using that, you can just use a little screwdriver. I have a little bitty screwdriver here, and what you do is you're just going to poke the holes in the bottom of your container. And usually I put about 10 holes or so for proper drainage. All right, so I don't know if you can see this, but there are holes in the bottom of this. There's probably about 12 holes or so, but you can put anywhere from 12 to 10 to 12 holes. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take potting soil, just, you know, a basic potting soil that you buy at either Home Depot or Agway or Lowe's or something like that. You don't have to go to a special store to get it. And generally the type that I like to use is Fafford or Miracle-Gro. I'm not trying to endorse any particular product, but I find that they have the proper amount of peat moss and vermiculite and different materials, because it's not true soil, it's a soilless mix. And the reason why they use the soilless mix is so that there are no harmful bacteria that is going to attack your plant. So back in the day when I was young and we used to farm, we used to actually heat up the soil in order to kill any of the bacteria. So you would put a big plastic tarp on top, and then you would put like heating elements, and you would, or it would just heat up because of the black plastic on top in the greenhouse. The greenhouses were very warm. I'm gonna fill this, I have soil next to me. Okay, so we've got the soil in, and what I'm going to do, just to show you here, is we're gonna tap it down a little bit, just so that there's no air pockets and the soil settles. And then I smooth it out, and there's probably about maybe a ½ inch to a ¼ inch at the top. We'll put a little bit more in. You can use gloves if you'd like, but I normally don't use gloves when I'm seeding in because I like to feel it. It's just who I am. And then what I do, and you can use anything, I use just a little stick here, and I'm going to make my lengthwise indentations into the soil, press down approximately about a ¼ inch. I'm going to make 3 rows. So here's 1, 2, and 3. I don't know if you can see this, but it's pressed down just a little bit, just enough of an indentation so that you can place your seeds. Now, if you don't have a little stick like I do, you can use this kind of a stick that's from outside. And I cut it so that it fits right inside here, and I can make my indentations with that. So anything that you can use, I mean, you know, the more natural, obviously, the better. The more recyclable, the better. Okay, now we're going to get our seeds. And I think we're going to do a flat leaf parsley. Now, normally I open up because I like to have the little flap just so that I can close it and then seal it up with a piece of tape. But if you want, you can just use a scissors. Yes, and you can cut and then open it up. And then you're going to make a little fold at the top like this. And then using your forefinger, you're going to use that as a tap. You're going to tap the seeds in because you want to do it very, very gently. So I'm going to lift it so you can see. And just as the seeds start to come down, you're going to go right to that little V, and you're going to tap gently and just put a nice thin row. You don't want to put too many in of seeds in your container in each row. So the 3 indentations that you made are where you're going to put your seeds. Great. Okay. We've got all our seeds in there that we need. Still have more left. And then what I'm going to do, you can take any kind of a container. Actually, we're going to use a recyclable container. I have a little pint-size container. I'm going to show you some of the others that I've saved. And we're going to put a little bit of dirt in. And then very, very gently, we're just going to cover with about a ¼ inch of soil. Until it's completely covered. And then usually what I do is I just use my hand to press it down. You can also use your stick to keep it pressed. Okay, and there, we've got a container filled with seeds. And there's quite a few seeds in here. I bet you there's about 75 seeds. So you may get about 75 plants. Now, you're going to say, if I do a whole bunch of these, how am I going to know which one is which? So what you're going to do is you're going to have something to be able to tag it. And we have tags here, but we can also use, I don't know if I brought it with me. You can use popsicle sticks, something very natural. Anything that is available that you can stick in. And I'm going to write parsley on it. And you can also write the date so you know when you did it. So that way you know, and parsley usually takes a while to come up. It takes a little bit longer than, say, basil. Basil's so quick, especially when it's nice and warm. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put the parsley stick in the front. Last but not least, okay, we're going to take a water bottle. And these are refillable. This is recyclable. I've already filled this. And because it has a small little spout, it's not going to come out all at once. You want a gentle stream of water to come in. And you're just going to water your plants, your little seeds, which are going to become seedlings. There we go. All right, a nice even amount. And don't forget, we have the holes in the bottom, so it's going to eventually drain through. So last but not least, there's one more thing, and it's another recyclable. These little baggies we get from the grocery store, supermarket, and the fruit and vegetable section. I use these to make a mini greenhouse. So what you're going to do is you're just going to cover it, but you're not going to seal it. You're not going to close it up. You're just going to leave it so that way the air can flow. And then you have your container and you have your seeds. And these will probably pop up in about maybe 10 to 12 days. Like I said, these take a little bit longer. All right, I'm going to put that up there for now, and we're going to take on another one. And this is another container that I have. This is from strawberries. And in this container, because strawberries, they need a little bit of air, otherwise they'll get moldy in the containers, especially in plastic when they're being sold and distributed and then sold. So we're going to open this up. And you'll notice that there are little holes in the bottom, which is great because it has its own drainage. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill this up. And the soil's coming out, but that's okay. All right. We're going to pat it down to get out all the air pockets. A little bit more in. We want to get it to the top. So that way we have more room for the roots, more growing room. And what do you think is good about this particular container? This one has an advantage. This one has a top. So it acts as a mini greenhouse, which is great. All right, so because this is too long, I can't make my little indentations. I have another stick for this one, and it's a little shorter, and I'm just going to use that to make my indentations. So the great thing about these little plastic containers is that they can be reused. And even after this continues to grow, after I transplant these plants, I still have this container left that I can use again. So we're going to do, let's do some basil. Okay, we have basil here. And this will pop up really soon. These are little black seeds. So again, we're going to make our little spout at the top. Use our forefinger to tap. Make our 3 rows. Now, the tinier the seed, the less soil you want on top. The bigger the seed, the more soil. And generally, which may seem a little crazy because these seeds are so tiny, and it's like, well, how will I know? Well, the less soil, I think, the better, than the tinier the seed. And supposedly with oregano seed, you just sprinkle it on top of the soil because the seed is so tiny. There. So we have a good amount in here. There's going to be a lot that's going to come up. We'll use our other container to just put a little bit of soil on top. There we go. I'm going to pat it down. There's a little chunk right there. We're going to break it up a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to use this container again, the water, and water these. All right. Now, problem. The water is going to come through. And if you leave the container out like this on a countertop, you're going to get water all over your countertop because of all the little holes in the bottom. So we have, from takeout, we have all these little containers. And look at this. This container is the top from a takeout. We're going to put that right underneath. And there you go. We have a cool little planting greenhouse that we made just from recyclables. All right, we'll put that up there. So let me show you some of the other containers that I have that I've used in the past. These are very small, but we can use these in order to put, you know, maybe plastic pots in like this. I have containers like this, which are deep enough, but generally I like to use one that's a little bit deeper because a longer and stronger root structure needs a lot of soil to be able to continue the process of growing. But any of these, they're solid, so you would have to put little holes in the bottom with your little mini screwdriver. We also have containers like this in which we can put big pots in, and I think I wanted to show you because we have chives too. We have a container of chives here in which you'll put that underneath and it'll be perfect and it won't soak through and ruin your countertop or your wood tables. Okay, I'm going to also show you another container that we can use. If any of you get the quart size, and these are made out of paper, they're cardboard, and I think they have like a wax finish inside because when I do cut them, all the little wax comes off from the outside, and so you just want to shake that out. Oh, and one other point, when you have these containers, make sure that you wash them out and use hot soapy water, and you're probably going to have to do it 2 or 3 times to get all the milk, and make sure you shake it really well. So you have a container like this, put water in, hot soapy water, shake it out, and then wash it out 2 or 3 times to get all the milk out, because there have been milk cartons that I've forgotten to do that with, and when you open them up, they are stinky, very, very stinky, and then they have to be washed again and again. I don't know, I wanted to show you some of the other ones that came through. This here, I was growing downstairs, and this is eggplant that's coming up. I realize it's a little young, but we've had some pretty cool and damp weather, and it's not really conducive for growing outside. Once your plants get to be, say, this size, this is basil, and I'll show you what the parsley is going to look like in a couple of weeks. The parsley that we just planted will look like this in a couple of weeks. And then you can individually take these out. These have a very long taproot, so when you take them out, make sure that you're very gentle. You can actually just tap it here and bring it out like that, and you can see all the roots that are coming through. And then very gently, you pull them apart in order to plant them outside. Parsley could probably be planted outside. It can be acclimated for this weather because it's pretty hardy. But the basil plants are very, very tender, and I would not plant those outside until probably the end of May, when the soil is warm and the air is warm. They do not like to be in temperatures under 50 degrees, under 55 degrees, and that's also considering the soil as well. So if anybody has any questions, oh, we have a quiz. I know everybody loves to take a quiz. So Jackie, can we put that up?
There we go.
Okay, thanks. All right, so why don't you take a look at these 3 questions and fill them out, and then we'll go over them. How'd we do? Okay, number 1, quiz number 1. All plants need soil to grow. Actually, that's false. Some plants, okay, can grow hydroponically, which means growing in water. We also have water lilies that grow in ponds, and they produce beautiful flowers. And actually, in Asian countries, they eat the roots, which are delicious. I've had them before. And then there are plants that grow with just air. We have air plants. And there are certain orchids that will grow just by the moisture in the air, especially if it's a very humid climate, such as Hawaii or in certain parts of Asia. So that answer is false. Okay, number 2, recyclable containers should not be reused for planting. Everybody got that one right. Great. I'm glad to see that. And yes, we've just proved that today by growing in a lot of different containers that we have and using them as saucers, using them as mini greenhouses. So yes, that's false. And number 3, this was a tricky question. What are the many benefits of growing your own vegetables? Select all that apply. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Okay, that's right. Everybody got these. Okay, you know what you are eating and it's healthier, and you can share your vegetables with others, which is a great opportunity to be able to be proud of what you have, and to be able to share it is probably one of the best ways of being able to make friends and keep just, just by growing, you're showing somebody that, anyone can do it. So any questions whatsoever? I see that we have some chatting here, and thank you so much. I love doing this. This was a great opportunity for me to be able to share one of my passions. This is something that I think is probably in my DNA from when it was really, when I was born, but I just love to do it, and I love to be able to pass it on to other people, because I think everybody should take on the opportunity to do something that can empower themselves and produce some delicious food too in the same token, and some gorgeous flowers. Do we have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Lori. We do have a couple questions in the Q&A box.
Okay.
The first one comes from Sean. Sean would like to know, would manure help the plants out or would it kill it?
Good question. Manure or compost. Compost is just when you use leaves and you use a variety of like spent, say for instance, you have a salad that you've made and you have like, the different parts of the lettuce head that, you're peeling off, and, instead of throwing it in the garbage, you can make your own little compost pile. And when you make your compost pile, you use varied types of live plants. No protein, no meat, no eggs, nothing like that, but you can use eggshells, and that will produce a compost. And you incorporate it with soil and you kind of layer it, and it heats up and makes a compost. Manure, on the other hand, is something that is a product of animals, such as chickens and cows and horses. And you have to be kind of careful with that because with horses, they could be fed antibiotics, and the same thing with cows. Chickens, not so much, but you have to be careful with certain types of manure because chicken manure initially can be very strong. It's very, very high in nitrites, nitrates, and nitrogen. So you need to let it rest for approximately a year. And that goes for any kind of manure product, unless it's already been pasteurized and you can buy it in bags. It has a very, very low amount of nitrogen and potassium and phosphorus, which is good for the plants. So yes, I'd say if you have bag manure, or if you have someone who has a horse or a cow, you know that that horse or cow hasn't been fed any kind of antibiotics or medicines, I would say it would be worthy to use, but just give it probably a year or two. So when they have manure out there that's for sale, just, be careful. Any other questions?
We do have some more, but unfortunately we're at the end of the workshop hour. So I will get those over to you.
They can always ask, and and you can forward them to me, and I can answer them. I can write and answer them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you,
great.
Lori.
I am so honored to be here, and I really appreciate being able to share this time with you. And happy planting and happy gardening to everyone.